Hi, and welcome to another educational video. On this video, I'm going to focus on writing a quote using italic calligraphy. In here, you can see the tools I normally use. Currently, this is a very dark walnut ink. Uh, Regarding my calligraphy pen, I'm using a Brause 3 millimeters broad nib that you can see in here. It's currently empty. If you want to know more about materials and alternative materials to this one, you can follow a link on the description on this video, and it will take you to subscribing to my email newsletters. And once you do, you will receive an automatic email from Substack with a link to download a PDF file. On this PDF file, you have recommendations for all types of materials depending on the style you're interested in, and also a set of blank calligraphy guidelines like this one for different calligraphy styles as well. Okay, let's go. So this is my Brause 3 millimeters nib, and I always use a red fine liner to mark and point out things, and sometimes I use a yellow highlighter so that you can see, hopefully, what I'm referring to. Normally, I'm talking about counterforms and a space between letters and what's the relationship between these two elements. Okay, let's go. What I do next is I'm using a blank paper. In this case, this is Canson XL 70 GSM, and you can find these materials on the PDF I mentioned before. Now I attach the blank guideline to my paper. Okay. And then to avoid having spelling mistakes, which is something that in my case, this is super common, I try to write the quote I'm going to be writing in calligraphy in here. So I have it in front of me. And this quote today says, when there is silence, one finds the anchor of the universe within oneself. This quote is by Lao Tzu, and you can find the quote and the author on the description on this video as well if you want to learn more about that. Okay, so as you see, I have highlighted the X height so you can see where I am, and then there is lines underneath, which I haven't mentioned, but I'll mention now. This is my blank guidelines for italic calligraphy for a classic scale. If you want to learn more about what are all these aspects, I have published another video, which is about a quote by Alan Watts. And in there, I explain in detail every single element of this grade, so you can find it over there. Excellent. Let's go. So I have highlighted the X height, so you see and I see where I'm going to start writing. And I have my lines underneath, which are a very good reference point. Excellent. Now, I'm always using a folded paper, such as this one, that can be empty or can be recycled and used. It doesn't matter. The purpose of this paper is to protect the surface from my own skin, such as this one. Okay. Now, I normally start with a capital letter, but you are more than welcome to start with a lowercase letter. You are also more than welcome to follow me using any other tool, such as a pencil, because if this is going to help you to focus, to breathe deeper and slower, and to feel more calm, then any tool is wonderful tool. Okay, so capital W. When. This is our first word. So let's go slowly and position ourselves. Okay, going up. During these videos, I do a lot less talking than a regular lecture because I'm focused on not losing the rhythm of writing. Let's go. When, let's move it slightly, there is let's move a bit more. When there is silence, comma. Okay, I'm gonna break the first line in here. When there is silence, comma, one finds the anchor. So I'm going to move to a new line in here. Okay. One, um, the Anchor. Let's move. Of. I'm gonna add one more word. Of. And then third line. Let's move. Okay, let's go. Of the. Okay. Universe. Mm, there's within. Let's move a little bit more. Within oneself. That's the last word. Let's move slightly more. Okay. Wow. Well, I had many challenges along the way, and I'll explain some of them now. So, along the way, I lost both of my AirPods twice. So maybe you heard some noise. Well, my AirPods falling off my ears twice. So that played a big role in my concentration. Then, first thing to say. Okay, so first line, no descenders. Second line, two Fs as a descenders. And third line, another F. Okay, the first thing I can say is if I was going to look for an even layout based on the length of each line, the next time I would do that, I would be writing when there is silence, comma, one finds the anchor of the, and I will break the line here. And on the third line, I will write universe within oneself. Okay, that's the first thing I can say about where did I break on the lines. I think maybe this THE can go up here. Secondly, uh, when I wrote this first letter H, it was quite narrow. So then I tried to keep the same uh, width of the character in every other character, and of course adjusting the spacing accordingly to the counter form. I'm pretty happy with the rhythm of the first line. Everything seems to be quite consistent, spacing, exits, entry points, everything so far. So far, good. Then the second one, this F is really long. Obviously, it's always the longest letter of the lowercase, and in this case, occupies the entire grid from the very top of the ascenders to the very bottom of the descenders. So it's quite tricky to find a good flow in the movement sometimes. This first one is okay. Then I keep on moving. Everything seems to be working quite well with the spacing and counterforms. And in here, second F, which obviously you can see the difference in shape from the first descender to the second one. This is more like a flag shape, so I rather go with that. If I can control the movement, I would rather go with the first one, but this is calligraphy, means every single time we write a letter form, it's going to be slightly different. If we don't want that, we just look for a very, very beautiful font, and then we will obtain the same characters over and over. So the charming about this exercise is that obviously every letter form is quite close to the other letter forms, like an N to the other N to the other N, even the H, but of course is never entirely exactly the same character. This R is good, is at the end of the word, so it's not so tricky as this one that is placed in the middle of the word, and I have to be very intentional about how much I'm branching towards the right-hand side. Last line, universe, I'm quite happy with this word and the spacing and the elements that are forming the word. The R and the S are talking very well together, and then the space is sort of similar to the space between the S and the E, which are very different characters. So it's a very dynamic negative space between these two pair of letter forms, same as the other pair of letters S and E. I'm quite pleased with the V towards the W because obviously you can see they are very much related in the movements. This type of writing, due to the pen angle, it's high contrast, so you can see how we have a stem and then exits and points during the letter forms that get really, really narrow. If I zoom in here, obviously, you will see the detail. So we are looking for high contrast between very thin entry points, exit points, and some flexions inside the word. Okay. And then within oneself, another F, the spacing works quite well. So I think this is so far so good. In some cases, like this one, the I of the E is slightly too large for my liking. It's not a big deal for me, but it's something I can notice and not to self. Maybe the eyes can be slightly smaller. I think this example is a very much preferred one for the eye of the E in here. If you want to know more about terminology, which is the description that I'm using for each part of the letter forms, like this will be a shoulder. This area is the eye of the E. This is a cross stroke. If you want to learn more about that, I published an educational website called writingcalligraphy.com. And in there, you can go to the section called Calligraphy Glossary, and you can find every single, maybe not every single one, but a lot of them, a lot of descriptions for the letter anatomy of what is an entry point, what is an exit point, what is the counter form, and so forth. It's really beautiful for design wise, and it's also very educational. So it's really cool. Excellent. So this is another quote. Let me know your thoughts, and if you want to have a look at more quotes done with italic calligraphy. Thank you so much.